This video was created with insights from Tony Silva, a respected voice in the aviculture community. You can read the full article on my website, link in the description.
Let's talk about parrots for a second. When you think of one, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably a big, colorful macaw, right? Well, today we're going to focus on a smaller bird, one that's often overlooked but might just be the perfect companion, the cockatiel. So let's get into it and figure out why this amazing bird is so often and so tragically misunderstood.
I mean, listen to how the famed aviculturist Tony Silva describes them. He says the cockatiel is almost the perfect pet, calling them quiet, gentle, and beautiful. They can whistle, they can even learn to talk. Plus, they're easy to find and they're affordable. On paper, they sound absolutely ideal.
And that brings us to the central puzzle of this whole thing. If cockatiels are so perfect, why is their care so often and sometimes so fatally wrong? It's a real paradox, and we need to unpack it. So let's dive into part 1, the perfect pet paradox. We're going to see how the very things that make cockatiels seem so great, the fact that they're common and they don't cost much, have actually, and tragically, led to their widespread neglect. You see, because cockatiels are just everywhere, a lot of breeders and owners just don't put in the effort. They figure, hey, it's an inexpensive bird, so its care must be simple, right? And that assumption, as we're about to see, has absolutely devastating consequences. And look, this isn't just some theory. This is real. Tony Silva shares this absolutely harrowing story of walking into a store and finding a group of cockatiels that were basically on death's door. They had all these horrible infections, a direct result of the kind of poor care that is just way, way too common. This whole problem, this widespread neglect, it really boils down to two critical but very, very common mistakes in how we care for them, how we house them, and, maybe most importantly, what we feed them. Believe it or not, it can start with something as basic as the nest. A lot of breeders use ceramic pots, but honestly, they're death traps. Because they're not porous, they just hold waste, creating this perfect, disgusting breeding ground for bacteria and even maggots if they're not cleaned every single day. A simple wooden box, on the other hand, is so much healthier. The wood absorbs moisture, it's easier to keep clean, and the birds can actually chew on it, which helps them stay hygienic. All right, the second fatal error is all about diet. There's this myth that just won't die, that a simple bowl of millet and other seeds is all a cockatiel needs. But here's the thing, surviving is not the same as thriving. And the cost of that myth is just awful. A seed-only diet leads straight to malnutrition. We're talking stunted chicks, terrible weight gain, and dehydrated birds with shrunken eyes. It's gotten so bad that some cockatiels are no bigger than a budgie now. It just proves that old saying among breeders, with birds, you really get back what you put into them. Okay, so how do we fix this? Let's get to the good stuff. We're going to build a diet that lets a cockatiel truly thrive, not just barely get by. So the foundation starts with a much better seed mix. This isn't just a scoop of millet. A really good mix has a variety of grains: oats, wheat, barley, buckwheat. You can even add small amounts of higher fat seeds like hemp or sunflower for breeding birds. But remember, this is just the starting point. To make their diet truly complete, you have to add daily supplements. We're talking dark leafy greens, steamed veggies like carrots and broccoli, even bits of whole grain bread. Now, here is a super important tip. Avoid sweet foods like corn and most fruits. All that sugar can encourage the yeast infections that cockatiels are already so prone to getting. Now, for anyone who's breeding cockatiels, this egg food recipe is an absolute game changer. And it's so easy. You just take a boiled egg, some grated carrot, endive, wheat germ, and bread, and pulse it all in a food processor. It gives them this incredible, easy-to-digest source of protein and nutrients that's so critical when they're raising chicks. But, and this is a really big but, you have to be extremely careful. This egg food is super nutritious, which also means it spoils really, really fast. Even a little bit of negligence, like leaving it out too long or not cleaning the dish properly, can breed bacteria and lead to dead birds. So hygiene is absolutely non-negotiable here. Okay, so after all this extra effort, the right nest box, the varied seeds, the fresh veggies, the carefully prepared egg food, we have to ask the most important question. Does it actually pay off? So let's put it to the test. Is there a real, measurable difference when you switch from a poor seed-only diet to one that's properly supplemented like we've been talking about? The answer is a huge, resounding yes. And the number I want you to remember is this one, 18%. So what does 18% actually look like in the real world? Well, one breeder decided to add just the egg food to an otherwise poor diet. The result? Their chicks were on average 18% heavier. For a tiny bird, that is a massive, life-changing difference in their health and their strength. Which leaves us with one final big thought to think about. The cockatiel is always described as an easy, entry-level pet, but maybe that very label is what's causing so much harm. Maybe we need to rethink what easy really means and make sure our desire for convenience doesn't come at the expense of the animals we bring into our homes.
To help explain the care of cockatiels even more clearly, let's take a look at some easy-to-follow infographics created by Lisa Morrison from her website, Cockatiels 101. Perfect for beginners and experienced bird keepers alike.